Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 240, The People and Places of the Restoration, Part 1. The podcast objectives are analyze the people of the restoration, analyze where the restoration occurred spiritually, analyze where the restoration occurred physically, and reveal the synagogue of Satan. This lesson contains timelines and other visuals. Therefore, if you are listening to the podcast, I advise you to watch the video version on our website or YouTube, or request a PDF of the lesson so you can add the visual effect. It's not even close. Now, in the most recent podcast, we concluded our analyses of the fifth of the seven guidelines on the restoration of the nation of Israel. To wit, we completed our analyses of the sequence of the restoration, sequence being the fifth guideline. For your edification, I will restate those seven guidelines. First, we have purpose, why it will happen. Then we have the time, when it will happen. Third is the season, a sign confirming the time. Fourth is the messenger, one who has been delegated to prophesy what will happen. Fifth is the sequence, how it will happen, i.e., the order of the events within the prophecy. Then we have the people, who the prophecy will happen to. Then seventh is the place, where the prophecy will happen. Here again, we just finished a 5-part series on the sequence of the restoration by analyzing the 7 seasons and the timeline below. Those 7 seasons are spiritual death, the rise of the messengers, the dissemination of the message, the unification of the nation, spiritual renaissance, the healing of the nation, and the preparation of the nation. From now, we must move forward and analyze the next guideline associated in this procedure. That would be the people, the 6 of the 7 guidelines associated with every word of prophecy. Now, it shouldn't be too difficult to understand who the people are as it pertains to the restoration of the nation of Israel. The people are Israel. However, and as we have prior revealed, not all Israel is Israel. This, my friends, is no riddle. It is reality. Not everyone who calls themselves Israel is a member of the spiritual nation Yahuwah Elohim is raising up in these last days and qualifying to obtain his seal. We have touched on this matter before, and we will do so again with finality in future podcasts dedicated to analyzing the seal of Elohim. Until then, I would restate a crucial reality in the form of an interest point. Consider it faithfully. Unlike the former nation, the renewed nation of Israel is not a physical nation. It is a spiritual congregation of set-apart people who walk daily in spirit and in truth. And to give you an idea of how truly rare this occasion is and how few in number this spiritual nation is. Consider this: there are more people claiming to be Israel than those who are truly Israel. And the truth is, it's not even close. A spiritual and physical location. Now, this brings us to the seventh and final guideline. That is the place, i.e., where the prophecy will happen. Decisively, once we have confirmed the place as it pertains to the restoration of the nation, we will have achieved our primary objective. Namely, we will have proven that the restoration was an authentic prophetic event. By fulfilling the 7 guidelines of this season, by the guiding hand of the Spirit and the vast expanse of the word of truth, we will validate the restoration of the nation of Israel as the first season in these last days. Let's get started. I will begin by structuring this guideline in the form of a question. That is to ask, where did the restoration of the nation take place? Now, there are 2 parts to this answer, namely a spiritual location and a physical location. Per the spiritual location, the renewed nation of Israel was restored in their minds, their hearts, and their will. First and foremost, our minds were transformed into the likeness of the mind of Yahushua Messiah, our loving master. This was crucial because salvation begins with the transformation of our minds. Philippians 2:5-8 reads, "For let this mind be in you, which was also in Messiah Yahushua, who, being in the form of Elohim, did not regard equality with Elohim a matter to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, and came to be in the likeness of men. And having been found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, death even of a stake." Secondly, we were given a heart of flesh such that we would be extremely sensitive to the will of Elohim. And we are, for as we have been given a heart to do his will has become our treasure. Ezekiel 36:26-27 reads, "And I shall give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. And I shall take the heart of stone out of your flesh, and I shall give you a heart of flesh, and put my spirit within you. And I shall cause you to walk in my laws and guard my right rulings, and shall do them." Matthew 6:19-21 reads, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. For where your treasure is, there your heart shall also be." Lastly, as it pertains to our will, we gain the power to live after the example of Yahushua Messiah, who dedicated his life to doing the Father's will. And so we have relegated our will in the like fashion of death, such that we may live and receive the crown of life. John 4:32-34 reads, "And he said to them, I have food to eat of which you do not know. My food is to do the will of him who sent me and to accomplish his work." Revelation 3:10, "Be faithful unto death, and I shall give you the crown of life. Those who have no association with Israel. Now that we have analyzed the spiritual location of the renewed nation of Israel, we must analyze the physical location, i.e., where the people within this nation are in the earth. First of all, seeing as the renewed nation of Israel is made up of men, women, and children from every nation, kindred, and tongue, the simple answer is we are everywhere. We are in every nation in the way Elohim sees nations. We are all over this world. Notwithstanding, this analysis speaks to the nation as a whole. At this time, I would like to focus on where the original people are for a critical reason, which I will offer as an interest point. I ask you to consider it faithfully. Many within our world have been led to believe the people who call themselves Jews are all descendants of Jacob, i.e., they are all the original nation of Israel. However, this is not true. The fact is, not everyone who calls himself or herself a Jew is a descendant of Jacob. Alas, this is one of the many deceptions Satan has inflicted upon the religious world. One of many lies he has used to shroud the identity of Israel to the whole world, including Israel. My dear friends, hear me carefully. I am not saying this for political purposes or racial reasons. I am stating this as a matter of historical fact. For not only have we witnessed the exposition of this satanic farce, the scriptures warned us this would happen. Yes, my friends, almost 2,000 years ago, the Spirit warned us that there would be many people claiming to be physical descendants of Jacob who have no association with Israel. I'm not making this up. Revelation 3:7-9 reads, "And to the messenger of the assembly in Philadelphia write, he who is set apart, he who is true, he who has the key of David, he who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens, says this: I know your works. See, I have set before you an open door, and no one is able to shut it. That you have little power, yet have guarded my word, and have not denied my name. See, I am giving up those of the congregation of Satan who say they are Yehudim and are not, but lie. See, I am making them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you." The synagogue of Satan. This passage proves my original point. That is, there are many who claim to be of the nation of Israel who are not Israel. Here, we are not talking about false brothers and sisters. We are talking about an altogether different people, a counter nation. Heard the word of the truth. These people, specifically their leaders, are not simply mistaken, they are lying. That is to say, they know that they are not Israel, but they are deceiving the world into believing they are. That includes their own people, i.e., they are lying to themselves. This is why the word of truth calls them the synagogue of Satan. It's because Satan is their father, for he is the father of all lies. And he was a liar from the beginning and a murderer. John 8:44-45 reads, "You are of your father the devil, and the desires of your father you wish to do. He was a murderer from the beginning and has not stood in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks the lie, he speaks of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. And because I speak the truth, you do not believe me." This brings us to the question of the hour. That is, who are they who claim to be Israel, but are actually the synagogue of Satan? The answer: they are so many, it is almost impossible to tell. And yet, we will be able to tell if we are led by the Spirit of truth. Notwithstanding, if we are led by the Spirit of truth, we won't waste our time trying to understand who these false Hebrews are. Remember, this is one of the many vices of the enemy, and a matter we have discussed in prior podcasts. Explicitly, we have revealed the great peril of focusing on satanic errors and lies. And yet, I will address it again, seeing how it is one of his greatest weapons against Yasharal. Consider it carefully. Satanic errors and lies are as a blinding light. If you focus on them, you will gradually incur spiritual blindness. Talk about adding insult to injury. In this scenario, you understand the essence of the lie, but because you are overly focused on it, it is blinding you to other forms of truth. For that reason, we are not going to invest our time focusing on the false Hebrews or any of the false brothers and sisters in our midst. No, sir. We are going to focus on Israel and where they are located in these last days. In doing so, we will come to see precisely where the restoration of the nation took place, with specific regards to the physical descendants of Jacob. We will start with the scriptures and then make our way forward to more modern times. If you're not well versed in the modern history of the nation of Israel, you will definitely want to listen in on these podcasts. And although they are all worthy of sharing, this mini-series is one that I would encourage you to share. Now, here is the final word. The most critical factors of every word of prophecy are the people and the place. This is critical to understand, for it is impossible to understand any word of prophecy if you don't know who the Father is speaking to. Likewise, you will never know where the prophecy will occur if you don't know who is being addressed. Satan knows this, which is why he has invested a great deal of negative energy in raising up a counter nation of false Hebrews, many of whom look like us and many who don't. Here again, I advise you not to waste any time worrying about these imposters. Instead, worry about yourself and what you must endure to be saved in these last days. And remember, we are Israel. It doesn't matter what we must go through. It doesn't matter what we must face. We have power with Elohim, and we will overcome, for we are his people, and we abide in his place. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, End Times 240, The People and Places of the Restoration, Part 1. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 242, The People and Places of the Restoration, Part 2. I will post this podcast on Monday, November 13th, 2023. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim. Continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.